Hello and welcome everyone to the Talents and Glyphs discussion video. Today I'm going to just be talking about what glyphs and talents that I'm going to be using in this patch. Now, things have changed quite a bit and I want to go into detail about that. But first off, I'm going to start with glyphs. So let's begin. We're going to go ahead and start with glyphs, and the first glyph that I want to talk about that is a new glyph that we're going to be using is Glyph of Totemic Vigor. What this does is it gives your totems the ability to have about 5% of your health, and that is quite a good bit. I'm going to do some demonstrations now with the different totems. As you can see, your healing stream gets about 20,000 HP. Totems like Healing Tide get about 70,000, I believe. Totems like Spirit Link get 20,000. If they don't have any base health, then it's about 19,000 and then some HP. It's, like I said, nearly 20,000. This is extremely useful because this allows your totems to not always get one shot. However, I do think that there is a better option here. I will use this a lot, especially against teams that don't have like super mega melee attack damage. Like if it's a warrior, then I'm obviously not going to want to use it because he'll just one-shot it anyway. But there are other classes that can do just little amounts of damage with spells, and those are the classes that we're going to want to utilize this new totem that we're using with. Now let's have a look at the next glyph option, Glyph of Healing Stream Totem. I like using this. I actually liked it last patch, but the Glyph of Purge was just way too good to not get. If you were not rolling with Glyph of Purge, then you were just not really doing it right. What the Healing Stream Totem does, or the Glyph of Healing Stream Totem, it gives you resistance every time Healing Stream ticks. And this can last for the entire 15-second duration of the totem, and then 5 seconds after that, because the last ticket gives you 5 extra seconds. Now, if you're like me, and you really use Healing Stream Totem a lot, this is something that is greatly beneficial. I like to use this a lot on cooldown. Obviously not every cooldown, but whenever my team is taking a lot of damage, this is something that's very helpful, and the resistance can certainly come in handy. Let's compare these two. I don't really like the other one because some classes are just going to have such an easy time one-shotting it, and I have a very serious problem with that. I obviously don't want to waste a glyph slot on something that is just going to be ineffective anyway. If it was more like 10 or 15% of my health, that would be so much better. But if you're going against a team that is very fast at killing your Spirit Links or something, then you might want to use it. However, I think Healing Stream is the clear option here. I think it's the clear choice, and I think that it is going to be the one that I use the most, but that is not saying that I won't use Totemic Vigor, because that is also a great one as well. Now obviously we've got our two new glyphs that we're going to rotate in for Glyph of Purge. By the way, Glyph of Purge is really bad now. Do not use it. You can purge way more stuff if you just don't get Glyph of Purge. It's going to cost you more mana, but it's going to be alright. The other two glyphs that I use are Glyph of Capacitator Totem and Glyph of Ghost Wolf, and I've used these throughout the entire season, and they were very useful. If you don't use Glyph of Capstun, then it makes your capstun like 5 seconds long, and everyone and their mother will be able to kill that totem before it explodes. Glyph of Ghost Wolf makes it where you are less hindered by effects that will reduce your movement speed. This is so important. If you don't use this, then basically Ghost Wolf is useless. There is one more thing to take into account here. There are minor glyphs, however, I'm not really a big fan of a lot of the minor glyphs. They're obviously more for aesthetic value rather than quality of player value. What I mean by that is that they're just to look cool. They're not really supposed to be there to make you play better. There is one though that I believe is absolutely crucial to your playing, because it creates kind of like a smoke screen for your actual totem. Even though your actual totem that you drop down has a very distinct graphic, this is something that is very useful. It is Glyph of Totemic Encirclement, and this is something that you should definitely use, because whenever you drop one totem, it drops 3 other ones, and yeah, that's basically how that totem works, and it's very essential. The other two, you really have a lot of wiggle room. I personally use Glyph of Spectral Wolf and Glyph of the Lake Strider, because whenever you're on top of water, you go into Ghost Wolf form. Not only does it change your appearance, but it also gives you a water walking. It's pretty cool. But the appearance one is 100% of the time up, so it's not only whenever you're over water. I would normally use Glyph of Astral Recall, but I don't find myself having to hearth that often. So let's move on to the talents portion of the video. Now we're going to discuss what talents are the best talents in my opinion, and which ones I will be using for this patch. I'm going to be using pretty much the same setup as last patch. I really have swapped my tier 3 talents though, and I'll get to that in a few minutes. But my general setup is Nature's Guardian, Windwalk Totem, Call of the Elements, Ancestral Swiftness, Healing Tide Totem, and Unleashed Fury. Most of these are pretty set in stone. There's not really any good options besides the ones that I have selected. But the tier 3 talent is definitely something that is debatable. This next part of the video is not necessarily going to be for the veteran shamans. This is going to be for the new shamans, people who are swapping to the class, and people who play it as an alt that don't really know a whole lot about it. Now, I'm going to break down the different aspects of the talents and when they come in handy and their usefulness. And if you are not a noob shaman, then skip to this part of the video. Now, let's begin. Nature's Guardian. Nature's Guardian is an excellent tool. It brings you, whenever you get below 30% health, your health is increased by 25% for 10 seconds. This got buffed in the recent patch. Now you don't lose that health after the 10 seconds is over. It's there forever. So, this is something that is great. You definitely want to use this. Stone Bulwark also got buffed, but I don't think it's better. And Astral Shift is really not something that I've ever used or even ever thought about using. Stone Bulwark is pretty good, but it's a 1 minute cooldown, and Nature's Guardian only has a 30-second internal cooldown, and I believe it's a lot better bang for your buck. In the next tier, we've got Windwalk Totem. Windwalk Totem is awesome. It's a 5-second or a 6-second freedom, and it gives pretty much everyone within 40 yards immunity to movement impairing effects. It's like a paladin freedom, except for your entire team for 6 seconds. It's a 1 minute cooldown. This comes very in handy whenever you're fighting against classes like mages, or you're getting tunneled by melee classes, you as the shaman, or it basically comes in handy at all times, especially whenever your team is going for kills or you're trying to escape the opponent. You can use Frozen Power or Earth Grab Totem, but I specifically like Windwalk Totem. I'm actually purposefully skipping tier 3 because there's something that I want to talk about later having to deal with it. But let's go ahead to tier 4, which is Ancestral Swiftness. There's really not any other good choices for Resto in this tier, so there's really not a lot to say about it. This is obviously your Nature Swiftness. Every healer has one except for Paladin. And this is very basic. It's a 1.5 minute cooldown, and yeah, you have to use this as Resto. The next tier is Healing Tide Totem, and there are two other talents in this tree that are also really not all that great for Resto. Maybe if you're PvEing, things change, but I haven't done any PvE, so I can't really talk about that too much. What I can say, though, is that Healing Tide Totem is essential for Resto Shamans, and this is something that you have to pick. However, if you are kind of into the other stuff in PvE, then, it's whatever. But the other talents, the other specialties of the Shaman class, Ellie and Enhancement, also use Healing Tide Totem a lot of the time as well. The final tier, I really feel like Blizzard really gimped Shamans as far as their level 90 talent. I really don't like any of these, but the one that I choose out of all of them for Resto is Unleashed Fury. What Unleashed Fury does is it emulates your weapon imbued, basically. For Earth Living, it gives you a 50% extra bonus on your next heal. So, but what you have to do is you have to target the person that you're going to heal with it, hit Unleash Elements, and then heal them. Because it won't work if you heal someone else after you've done Unleash Elements, and I don't really like this. Primal Elementalist is something that some shamans have used in the past. What it does is it makes your elementals 80% more powerful. I like this, sort of, but the elemental totems just die way too quickly to use this. Now I want to have a talent discussion about Tier 3. Tier 3 is a loaded tier. I really wish that they would have spread these out a bit. However, my favorite to use is Call of the Elements because it resets all of your very short cooldown totems, including Capacitator Totem, Windwalk Totem, Grounding Totem, Earthbind Totem, Healing Stream Totem, and Earth Grab Totem if you use that. There are a few others, also Tremor, and if I miss any, forgive me, but those are the ones that I mainly use and the ones that I love this talent for. Now let's look at the other ones. Totemic Restoration. Totemic Restoration is pretty awesome. It gives you a cooldown reduction whenever your totems get destroyed, and you can use macros to make this happen. For example, let's just go ahead and try this out really quick. I've got a Tremor Totem macro here that will destroy it instantly. I lay the Tremor Totem down and I hit the macro, and the cooldown instantly goes to 30 seconds. Now, it's about 34 seconds actually. That's a pretty nice little amount of cooldown reduction just based off of using a talent. Obviously you don't want to use this all the time due to the fact that, you know, you are always not going to be fighting teams that you need this Tremor reset, but that's the main thing that I use it for. And a lot of shamans use it for the Windwalk Totem reset, and that's something that's good as well. You can also, grounding works really well with it. You can cut the grounding totem in half if you ground something at the perfect time, but this is all a great talent, and I use it quite frequently against teams that can fear. Now, Totemic Projection. This is something that I haven't seen a lot of people using recently. A lot of people are moving more towards the other talents, and I'll tell you why. It is kind of useless unless you're using it for something like Capacitator Totem, or if you're using it to get like your Healing Tide Totem or your Spirit Link Totem away from the enemy team. You know, obviously you want to preserve your totems, but I really actually like the other two options better. So the main setup that I use is actually this one that you see on the screen right now. This is my favorite one. Obviously I change my tier 3 depending on what we're fighting against, and I used to use Earth Grab Totem against melee teams, but I've just found that Windwalk Totem is so much better. So that's going to just about wrap it up for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, make sure you leave a comment, and if I don't respond, then send me a personal message. You can do that through the website. My username on the website is JonathanLOL, and that is that's that. So I hope you guys learned something from this video, and hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.